Hey guys, welcome back to Libby's Lounge, Patreon edition, where we are recording the unofficial audiobook for the Assassin's Alliance. We are on chapter 29. Let's get started. Chapter 29. Maureen. She should have let Rosemary shoot her. Every inch of Maureen's body hurt, but she made it to the bottom of the cliff, her knees sinking in to the soft sand of the beach next to Seamus. He handed her his bottle of water, which she downed greedily, and tossed a blanket over her to hide the bloody mess she was from wandering eyes. Halfway down the cliff, the comm picked up reception. Seamus cursing her and Rosemary his entire trip to meet her on the beach. Maureen dropped to her side, the one without the bullet in it, a cry of relief leaving her. Seamus sank to his knees beside her. You are a fucking idiot, he spat, his hands in complete opposition to his anger as he gently checked her shoulder. And goddamn lucky she's a good shot. So fucking lucky, Maureen mumbled, the memory of the bullet piercing her flesh begging to argue. I was 20 minutes from calling Senior. Thank you for not. She rolled to her back, exhaustion pulling her eyes closed. She forced herself to sit up instead. I told her 24 hours. Let's give her that. She held out her hand and he pulled her to her feet, the world spinning around her, and he slipped his arm beneath hers, holding her up. His jaw ticked, and she could see the war between being loyal to Francis and knowing she was in charge here. Fine, but the moment I smell foul play, I'm calling it, he countered. Let's get you patched up. The bikinis, but not the medical supplies, Seamus growled. Maureen's teeth sunk into the washcloth, trying to hold back the scream as he poured the alcohol onto her shoulder. Every muscle in her body tensed, as if she were being electrocuted. He pressed a cold, clean cloth to it, a wave of pain minimizing for a moment. She took a deep breath and pulled the cloth from her mouth to sip at the rum they'd picked up on the way home. It burned in the best way. They were in Drew's luggage, she said. Seamus picked up the washcloth and stuck it back in her mouth. Brought the vials of sin, but didn't bring a fucking medical kit. He took a steadying breath and shook his head. This is going to hurt. The needle-nose pliers he'd picked up at the corner store shook slightly as he hovered over the bullet wound, but he didn't move forward. She spit the towel out. What is it? I'm afraid I'm going to do more damage, he admitted. My grip. He opened and closed the pliers. What if I can't hold on to it and it slips? A blanket of guilt dropped heavy on her. You find the bullet and I give you an assist? She waved her free hand. Teamwork. He met her gaze, his own guilt sitting behind them. Why he felt guilt she couldn't imagine. It was her mother who broke his fingers, who destroyed his ability to perform his duties. But like the last 5 years, they ignored it. Okay, just don't pass out. Maureen put the cloth back in her mouth and placed her hand on his, trying to keep the tip of the pliers in her sight. Ready? She definitely was not ready. Her eyes rolled back and she pressed them closed, trying to hold in the pain as the metal pierced the inflamed and damaged tissue. Got it, Seamus said. Squeeze. Squeeze what? God, it hurt so bad. She was going to puke. Squeeze, Maureen. The command snapped her back into the room. With every ounce of concentration, she followed his orders, her knuckles screaming in protest as he guided her hand. Got it, got it. Maureen dropped her arm to the bed, spitting the soaked washcloth out as the enticing darkness reached for her. She could just go to sleep and, hey! The word yelped from her mouth, with another shock of pain as Seamus doused the area with antiseptic. She glared, and he wiped his brow before applying superglue to the edges of the wound. What are you? She didn't get to finish the question as he pushed the split skin together, another scream ripping her from her throat. Fabric filled her mouth and she choked, drowning out the scream. She spit it back out, her chest heaving with the effort of breathing. Motherfucker. That I am not, Seamus said, and sat back inspecting the work. He pressed a clean bandage once he was satisfied and folded the medical gloves in on themselves as he slipped them off. Bastard. Definitely. No idea who my father is. But I've only ever slept with Eileen, and she's not a mother. Yet. His lips lifted and Maureen groaned. Here. He handed her a handful of pills. I swiped them while I was out. Should help with the pain. Maureen eyed them. What are they? Not what we're used to, he admitted. Just give me the antibiotics, she said, dropping her head back. She wanted something for the pain, but if she passed out, she couldn't ensure he wouldn't hold up his end of the deal to keep quiet until tomorrow. Actually, can we get some food and some more drinks? She held up the bottle of rum. But something stronger. Much stronger. So what is Legacy Inc.? Seamus asked. They sat at the kitchen table in the villa, an array of Greek dishes in front of them. It's operating out of D.C., Maureen said, adjusting her sling. That's all I can gather, but Senior sent us here to find out who Zach was selling information to. That's Rosemary. Elijah. She shook her head. I can't believe he would do something like this. Mr. Wayward? Seamus asked. Of course he would. He's always been unhappy playing second fiddle to Senior. He thinks he could run the place better. We need to call Senior, Seamus insisted. Tomorrow could be a setup. Maureen shook her head. The haunting look Rosemary gave her when she mentioned sin. Maureen recognized it, felt it in her soul. Did you know Eliza dosed her with sin when you all voted her off the team? His fork paused in front of his mouth, the salad falling back to the plate. What? Maureen nodded. I think she might be in trouble. Seamus scoffed and re-stabbed the salad, taking a bite. Do not feel sorry for her. She'd made her choices. They're not her choices if made under duress, Maureen countered. You didn't grow up with her, Seamus said. For all we know, she asked to be put under sin to prove her loyalty. No one would ask for that, Maureen whispered, her pulse quickening. Maybe, Seamus said, but I don't trust her. I've never trusted her, and I'll be damned if I walk home with your corpse. You only had Eileen to worry about. I have Eileen, Andrew, and Senior. I might as well fall on the sword beside you. Seamus, Maureen breathed his name, guilt trying to find its home around her. I don't, he said, brow furrowed. I'm sorry, she said, dropping her eyes to his hands, the words leaving her mouth for the 100th time but finally directed at the person, the reason she needed to say it. We never talked about it. What's there to talk about? You saved my life, he said, taking another bite of food. It's my fault you were there at all. You tried to convince me to leave. I made you defy orders and bring me to my mother. I dragged you into this entire fuck-up. You're either giving yourself way too much credit or me not enough. If I didn't think it was a good idea, I wouldn't have brought you to that cafe. He put his fork down and held up his hands. I see how you look at them, but it's a blessing, Mo. So I can't pull a trigger reliably anymore. But I can still touch the woman I love. I can save my friends. He gestured to her shoulder. And tactically speaking, I'm just as useful at the keyboard. Maybe even more so these days. Maureen pressed her lips together, unsure why she was bringing all this up now. Maybe it was the fact that I hadn't heard about Krista, or the brush of death she just had, or maybe the overall pain inhibiting her ability to tamper down the feelings anymore. Do you ever regret having to be my babysitter? You can't regret something you don't have control over, he said instead. He grabbed the bottle of local Ozu he picked out, and their 2 glasses from the table. And even if I did have control, I would throw myself in front of your mother every single time to save you. The blanket of guilt lifted just slightly. Come on. Maureen followed much slower to the couch. She clenched her teeth against the pane as she lowered herself down, and he poured them each a drink. With a splash of water, the clear liquid turned milky as he passed one over to her. Are you sure you don't want painkillers? Sleeping pills? He asked, sitting on the other end of the couch. Positive. She took a sip, the familiar burn hitting her chest, and she breathed into it. I need a clear head for the morning. You know I trust you 100%, but this? I've got a bad feeling about it. Maureen nodded in agreement. She'd had a bad feeling since they'd stepped foot into the institute yesterday. There's something big happening. I don't know what, but this is going to change everything. I don't want to go back with half the information, and I don't want to compromise anyone we don't need to. She adjusted on the couch. A stifled moan escaped her lips. He looked back at her. Are you sure about the meds? I don't know who would be more angry. I'm letting you sit here in pain, Eileen or Andrew. At least something to help you sleep. Her gut turned in warning. Her no always meant no. People respected that unless she was in the way of what they wanted. Did he want her to sleep so he can call Francis? Or was he simply trying to make sure she was comfortable? Her head began to throb, the bullet wound stealing all of her focus and reasoning skills. She would need to rest at some point. You know what? She said. I think I will. He looked at her, eyebrows raised. No point in being in pain if I don't have to be, right? Seamus nodded and took a sip of his drink. I left them in the bedroom. I'll be right back. Maureen waited until he was heading up the stairs and pushed herself out of the couch, slamming down a muffled cry. If she was sleeping, so was he. She scanned the open living area. Where had he put the blue cooler? Her eyes landed on the fridge. The freezer. The cool tiles bit into her bare feet as she forced them to move as fast as her sore body would allow. She glanced at the stairwell before opening the freezer door, the cooler taking up the majority of the space. The lock disengaged for her, and the zipper sounded like an alarm as she opened it. She scrunched her face as if it would make it less loud. With practiced fingers, she reached inside the cooler, the cold biting at her fingertips, counting the vials until her fingers landed on a sedative. She pulled out the clear vial, the glass fogging as it hit the warm air, and wrapped her hand around it. The toilet upstairs flushed, and she hurried back to the couch, eyes on Seamus's glass. The vial shook in her hand, and she bit her lip, guilt trying to nudge her gut. It was just a sedative. She shouldn't. He was her friend, her teammate. But if she fell asleep and he called Francis... She looked at the stairs again, Rosemary's haunted expression crossing her mind. If Elijah had dosed her with sin for something she had no control over, what would he do to her if Seamus set up the red flag when Maureen promised her 24 hours? Before she could second-guess herself, she popped the vial open and put a dash into his drink. Everything good? She spun, heart in her throat. Seamus carrying a bag full of pills, out like a gift. Yeah, topping off her drinks. Turning back to the table, she put the stopper back in place and slid the vial into her sling, picking up the bottle, her hands trembling as she filled both glasses. Good call. He joined her at the coffee table, squatting down as the bottles rolled out of the bag. What's your poison? We have codeine. These look like some sleeping pills. He scrunched his face, staring closer at the bottle. Maureen's heart beat hard in her throat, and she eyed the drink in front of him. What was she doing? They could just talk about this. She could just not sleep. She could call Francis and tell him she needed 24 hours. Okay, my Greek isn't as good as it should be. Codeine would be best. Hey! She reached out for his drink, but he grabbed it first. I'm not sharing, he said with a laugh. Seamus, wait! But he tossed the drink back and wiped his hand across his mouth. Blood drained from her face, and the world suddenly shifted around her. Fuck. She hadn't even measured how much she'd dumped in there. Here. He tossed the bottle at her. She fumbled to catch it, and the bottle hit the floor. She lowered herself to the couch, not bothering with the pill bottle, her entire body buzzing. What had she done? What's wrong? His humor slipped, and the couch dipped as he sat beside her. Mo, you're going to be fucking pissed at me, she said, tears blurring her vision. But I'm really worried about Rosemary. What are you talking about? She bit her lip, reaching into the sling, fingers finding the smooth glass. She met his eyes and pulled out the half-empty vial. I panicked. I thought you were going to call Francis, and... He took the vial, looking from it to the drink. His eyes fell closed, a half-laugh leaving him as he shook his head. That's some shit Eileen would pull. Maureen nodded. I learned from the best. That's fucking dirty, Maureen. His face contorted in rage, and he swallowed hard, taking a deep breath. I know. Her heart hammered in her chest, her words barely audible. She crossed a line, one only justifiable if she was right. And if she was wrong, she just incapacitated her only line of defense. I would have passed out and never known. Why tell me? She nodded again. That was my plan, but what? She'd panicked. She hadn't trusted him. She owed him her life, and this was a shitty way to repay him. But we don't lie to each other, and you deserve to know, in case I'm wrong. He huffed a laugh. I wasn't going to call Mo. Since the day I picked you up in Philly, I've never known you to be wrong. Your guilty conscience is going to get you in trouble one of these days. He sucked his teeth and let out a long sigh. I'm sorry, she said, swallowing hard. I don't know why. Stress, he said. Krista, Rosemary, you were shot. Mike, she thought, then shook her head. She drugged him, and he was making excuses. Eileen is going to be pissed. If everything turns out fine, she'll be impressed. He pulled her glass forward, dumping the remaining liquid into her drink. If I'm sleeping, you're sleeping. It's not like we can't use it. He held out the glass, challenge clear in his eyes. She took it, the liquid shaking with the tremble of her hand. He was pissed, but if he was down, so was she. Touché, she said, raising the glass in salute. She tossed back the drink, the sedative tasteless, as the alcohol burned in her chest, and she coughed. It rocked her shoulder, and she let out a cry. Damn it, that hurts. You deserve that. She glared at him, his eyes already looking heavy. He poured himself another glass and topped hers off. Sweet dreams, he said. Her eyes felt heavy, too, the pain in her shoulder fading away as the alcohol and sedative went to work. Sweet dreams, she agreed, and tapped her glass to his. They downed the warm liquid and slammed their glasses to the table. She leaned back, her body sliding sideways into him. He wrapped his arm around her, adjusting to make sure her shoulder was supported. We're going to talk about this in the morning. I know, she said, as she adjusted herself against his chest, her ear pressed against his heart. She closed her eyes and let the sound drown out everything else. And that is the end of chapter 29. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. This is always anything but Seamus is fun because Seamus just always seems to be at the wrong place at the wrong time when Maureen is involved. So I'm excited to get you guys to chapter 30.